Let's get started. So yesterday we started our discussion with how to create the resources, right? So the first thing that we understood was, why is this, right? The first thing that we understood was in this particular file, in this particular file, you'll be having different blocks, correct? So the first block was provider block. So the provider block is used to tell to the Terraform that which is the service provider you wanted to connect, what are the credentials you need to use, and what is the other thing in which region you wanted to create these resources. These details we are providing inside a provider block, and you can have only one provider block per file. This is by default. Okay. So the second block was resource block. So what is this resource block? If you wanted to create a EC2 instance or any other service in AWS, then you will be creating using something called as resource block, right? So, and you can have multiple resources. Okay. This is what we discussed yesterday. And before we start the class, I just wanted to show you this. See, the code you don't need to remember. Already the code is present. Where it is present, if you just go to Terraform, just type Terraform AWS, something like that, and you can able to go to this sites. And if you go to AWS provider, okay, just come down, see here, you can able to see everything, whatever the services which are available in AWS. For each and every service, already the code is present. Okay, see, now yesterday we started discussion about EC2 instance, right? Just come down. What is the full form of EC2? Elastic Compute Cloud. Remember, where is this? EE. Hmm. Somewhere here. Elastic Compute Cloud. EBS DynamoDB. Can you able to see? Here see EC2. This is where you should just click on this, right? And if you see, what are the things associated with EC2? AMI, copy the AMI between the regions. AMI from one instance, right? Launch permissions, availability zone. Everything is present here. Whatever the things which are related to your EC2 instance, right? All those things are here using Terraform. Okay. Now, yesterday we started creating something called as EC2 instance, simple EC2 instance, right? Just if you just click on this AWS instance, see on right side, you can able to see everything here. It's already present. Don't worry, what is this filter, data, everything that we'll learn slowly. Yesterday, we created this thing, if you remember. Resource. What resource you wanted to create? I wanted to create AWS instance, right? See, before we start the things today, I just wanted to clarify two things here. Whenever you create any resource in AWS, first it should start with resource block name, resource. Then it should start with whatever the resource or infrastructure that you're creating. Here I'm creating EC2 instance. So that is why it is starting with AWS-instance. It should be the same. Okay. And if I start creating something, let's say Elastic IP. Okay. Just see now resource, what I'm creating, AWS Elastic IP. Now, if I'm creating key pair, just see it is starting with AWS key underscore key pair, right? This is the keyword this you should use by default. There are no changes here. Okay. And the second thing here is, let me come back to EC2 instance. See, here there are two names. Web is the first name, and there are another name for your EC2 instance. Right? See, this name, whatever the name that you are given under tag section, this is the name which is given to your EC2 instance here. Whenever you create a EC2 instance, the name you provide, right? Here, this is a Terraform, this names, Terraform server, AWS CLI. That is the name you are giving it through the tag section. Then what is this? This is also name, right? If you want to refer the values internally between the resources, then we'll use this name. That we'll see today how to do it. Don't worry about that. Here there are two names. One name is under tag section. One name is in the resource section, right? This name under tag section is used to provide the name to your EC2 instance. This name. And this name, just remember, is used for the internal use. Okay, that we'll see today. How to use the internal. Fine. So that is the one thing. Now, let us start the actual thing. Okay. Where is this? Providers. Yesterday we created this resource, right? Provider. What is this? Okay, no issues. See, yesterday we have successfully created a EC2 instance, right? How we have created? First, let me log into this Terraform server. Just a second, please. What is the first thing when you log into Terraform server you need to do? Switch to sudo user. That is the first thing you need to do. Sometimes scripts will not execute if you are into normal user. Okay, so that is the reason. Now, yesterday we created a folder known as Terraform here. Just going back to that folder. And here we have a main.tf. CVI main.tf. Okay. See here what happened yesterday. We have created the resource. We have provided username, password. Everything is there. Every variable we have provided. Everything is fine. Looking good. But now my question here is, see, something is wrong here if you observe. That is, don't you feel providing this username, password, or credentials directly is a kind of looking weird thing, right? Or it is not a good practice, because see, you can you can use this credentials. I can also use this. If I'm uploading this video to YouTube, they also can see these credentials and use these credentials, right? So this is kind of a secret thing for me, but I'm displaying it to everyone. Or in terms of organization or with respect to company, you are the user and these values are related to you, right? And if you just directly, if you're providing these values, some other developer might take this access key and secret key, and if he is not good with you, he can do anything to create a bad name for you inside our organization. Something might happen, right? So the first thing we need to discuss here is, first, see how to pass credentials to Terraform. This is just a small heading, how to pass a credential to your Terraform. The first method is direct method. There is no secret here. This is what the direct method. Just write down access key and secret key and copy paste the values, whatever the values you have, that is the direct. Okay. The second method here is, first method is direct method. Second method is set up the environment variables. What is the second method? Setting up the environment variables. What you just need to do, sir, you just need to set up an environment variable. How to do this? Let me come out here first. Simple. You just need to use export. I think you already know how to set up environment variables, right? You need to use export access. I'll just, where is this? Here it is already there. See, you just need to use this command. Okay, export access AWS access key ID. Just copy this, and you just need to replace this with your access key. Okay, just export AWS access key ID. Okay, just come back and paste it here. Just click on enter, and same type your I don't know whether this is the correct credential or not. Just give me a second. This is a Terraform user, right? And this is the next one. I'm just replacing the credentials, correct credentials here. Control V, US icon, E second one. Okay. Now export these values. Just copy paste this. Come back to your terminal and paste this. Export access key is done. Do the same thing for your secret key. Okay, just click on enter, and you can also export the region, whichever the region you want it to work. Instead of providing it every time, you can also export that. Okay, just click on enter. Now you have configured your access key, secret key, and your region as a environment variables. Okay, how to see whether these values are configured or not? What you just need to do, echo is nothing but print, right? Echo dollar and your variable name, AWS access SECESS hyphen key hyphen ID. Okay, just click on enter. See, your environment variable, your access key is configured. Same, just replace this access key with secret key. It is also configured. Okay. Now, if you start creating, now if I open that main.tf file, vi main.tf, you don't need these things, your access key and secret key. Let me delete these things first. Delete. Okay. I'm just providing who is the provider. AWS is my provider. Okay. Just save this. It will take some time. Let us do Terraform plan. Terraform plan. Just a second, whether it is reflected or not. Just check once. See, now this time I'm not providing any credentials, but it is taking it from the environment variables, if you see. Okay. So now if I just go and Terraform apply, what happens? It will create the infrastructure into that particular region. Okay, this is the second way of providing the credentials. First way is direct method. Second way is setting up the environment variables. But what is the problem with the setting up of environments? See, now I have logged into this EC2 machine, have exported all the access key and secret key to this machine. But the problem here is if I just start and stop this EC2 machine, if I just start and stop this EC2 machine, whatever the access key and secret key you configured, that will be gone. If you just start and stop a EC2 machine. Okay, this is the problem with your environment variables. Okay, so in order to come out of this problem, the third method is same export access key secret key. Instead of setting up as an environment variable, just copy paste these values to one of the file known as .bash rc. If you just copy paste the same values, export access key, export secret key, export region, whatever the values that you already copied, see, if you see these things, same command, but instead of copy pasting into the terminal, now where you will copy paste, you will copy paste under this file, .bash rc file. So if you copy paste these values under this file, then what happens? Even if you start and stop your EC2 machine, your credentials will not be deleted. Okay, that is the advantage if you store these values under this file. Fine. So just now what I'll do, now I'll just copy all the things here, Control C, just come back to your terminal. I'm clearing this. Okay. Now just vi root slash dot bash rc. Okay, bash bash rc. Just click on enter and you can able to see one file now. Okay. Just come down to the last, you just come down. Okay, just insert the values. It should not be start with hash. Just copy paste the values. Just save this. Same command. There is no difference. Okay, just save this. Now, if you see, just once just come out of the sudo user and again log in. Exit, again sudo su, just to refresh those values. Okay, so cd terraform vi. Okay, I'll directly apply Terraform plan Terraform. See now, just wait. So now, even though if you start and stop your EC2 instance, it will not be vanished. You can still be able to create your infrastructure without providing the access key and secret key. This is the third way of doing it. Okay. What is the first way? First way is direct method, right? Second way is exporting it as an environment variables, right? That is the second method. Second is export as a environment variable. Third, store all the values under something called as .bash rc file. So if you store under this file, the values will not be deleted even if you stop and start the EC2 instance. The fourth method is, you already know this, you can use AWS configure or AWS CLI. Did you remember while configuring AWS CLI, we provided access key, secret key. If you remember, like 1 week back, we created an infrastructure using AWS CLI, S3 bucket, EC2 instance using commands. At that time also, we configured some access key and secret key using AWS configure, if you remember. So using that also, you can pass. What is the other way then? There are multiple ways, but these are the things which are best practices that I'm telling you. What is the next thing? You can use a service known as in AWS Amazon Secret Manager. If you remember, yes, this is Amazon Secret Manager. We already discussed it will encrypt and decrypt the values. Okay, under security service, we discussed about a service known as Amazon Security Secrets Manager. Okay, so using this service also, you can store your username and password. The last option is we have a third party outside vaults. Third party vaults. Okay, using these things also, you can store your username and password. But in most of the cases, we'll use these two things using bash rc or AWS configure. Okay, so now we are using this bash rc. We'll also call this as a login script. Storing credentials under login script. In some interviews, they might also refer this word, storing the credentials. How will you store credentials under login script? You just need to remember this. There is a file known as bash rc, and if you store the values under bash rc, that becomes a login script. Okay, so these are the different ways in which you can provide your access key, secret key, and region. Okay, so any doubts here? Sir, how is Terraform is going? Can you able to relate this thing? See, there is a direct connection between past two classes and today's class and the upcoming classes. If you're not doing the yesterday's class or day before yesterday's class, nothing you will get. That is for sure. Okay. Please go through the past sessions. There is a direct connection between them for each and every class. For today's class also, there is a connection. Okay. Just at least if you just know, heard it once, it will be very, very easy. Fine. So if there are no questions, I'll move to the next concept. Okay. So now we successfully discuss how to store a credentials, how to store credentials inside your Terraform. Right? There are different methods. I showed you how to do it. Now, there is a concept known as dependencies. Okay. There is a concept known as dependencies. Now, what is this dependency? Can anybody tell me? See, in general terms, in simple terms, what is dependency? Or dependency, or independent, dependent, something. Dependency is nothing but I'm a child and here is my parents. So this child is dependent on these parents. If the same child is grown up man or woman, then there is no dependency. Then they are independent. Correct? This is what the meaning of dependent and independent. Now, in our case, see, just a second. See, in Terraform, we have three kinds of dependencies. Okay. The first dependency is default dependency. What is this default dependency? Let's say I have a EC2 machine. I wanted to create the EC2 machine. And in the same script or in the same file, I wanted to create a S3 bucket. Now, please tell me, do we have any connection between S3 bucket and EC2 instance? Just like your kid and parent, grown up men and a parent. So there is no dependency between a kid and or this man and this parents because he's already grown up. He's earning some money. Just like that, here, do we have any dependency between EC2 machine and S3 bucket creation? There is no dependency, right? S3 bucket can be created independently. And at the same time, EC2 machine I can create independently. Right? So in that way, there is no dependency between EC2 machine and a S3 bucket. So if there is no dependency between the resources, then what Terraform will do is it will create these kind of resources in parallel. This is the point I was trying to say. Okay. In default dependency, what happens? If there is no dependency between the resources, okay, then what it will do, what Terraform will do, it will create these resources in parallel. This is the first point you need to remember. Let us execute and I'll show you how this will work. Okay, just come back. The script is already ready. I'll not be resetting and writing this. Okay, see, here is my provider block. You already know. I am creating a EC2 instance. Just provide any name. First is fine. Right? And this is the reason EMI, same thing. And here I am creating a EC2 instance. Okay. So for S3 bucket. For S3 bucket, from where you should copy the code, just come here, just go to S3 bucket. There is S3 bucket. Just come down. S3 controller. Simple storage. Just click on this AWS S3 bucket. And here, if you see, it is already ready. Same thing I copy pasted. Okay. But why I'm telling you to learn this? In interviews, they'll ask you to write the scripts. Write a script to create a S3 bucket. Write a script to create VPC. Write a script to create IAM user, IS3, EC2 machine, security group, key pair, those things. They'll not ask you each and every service which is present here. Only few services they'll ask. Okay, that whatever the things that we'll discuss anyway. Now the same thing is here. See, now this is my provider block. This is my resource block. What is the first resource I'm creating? I'm creating a EC2 instance. Then what is the second resource I'm creating? I'm creating a S3 bucket. You also don't need this. If you want, just keep it up. And here, this name should be unique. Whenever you create a S3 bucket, you remember S3 bucket name should be unique. So what I'll do, DevOps August 2024 or something. I'll give August 2024. Now let me copy the script. Control C. Just come back. And here you have a main.tf file, right? Just delete the existing content here. Even if you want, you can create multiple main.tf, but I'm using the same file. Paste. Okay, I'm just pasting all the details here. Save this file. Now, Terraform. What is the first command? Terraform validate. See, you have a command known as Terraform -help. Okay, just click on enter. Oh, Terraform -help. Sorry, Terraform. Every time this is the mistake. See, if you just execute Terraform -l, it is showing you whatever the commands available. These are the main commands. Terraform init, prepare your working directory for other commands. Validate, check whether the configuration is valid. Plan, show changes required to correct configuration. Apply, create or update the infrastructure. Destroy, delete. And there are so many other commands that we'll discuss. Okay, but these are the major commands. These are the minor commands. Okay, so that is the one thing. Now, Terraform, plan, just wait. Okay, what it is doing, it is creating two instances. If you see plus symbol, that means it is creating. Minus symbol, it means it is deleting. If you see plus and minus, either it is modifying or it is changing the things. Okay, so it is creating two things. Now let us go and use Terraform apply -auto -approve. Okay, just click on enter. See, if you observe now, there is no dependency between EC2 machine and your S3 bucket. Can you see this? Here, it is creating both the resources in parallel. At the same time, it is creating S3 bucket, and at the same time, it is also creating your EC2 instance. Okay, there is some issue API when S3 bucket name is not valid. That is fine. Okay, bucket name, I just need to provide another thing. That is fine. So, but the major point here is it is creating your EC2 instance and a S3 bucket both at the same time. That means what is this? It is a default behavior of your Terraform. Okay, so just go back and change this name main.tf. Some name I'll provide. This name I think. Insert. DevOps ABC DevOps August 2024. Just say this. And first, let me Terraform destroy, because already a EC2 instance is created. Again, I don't want it to create it, right? Terraform destroy. Just wait. Yes. It is deleting your EC2 instance. Just wait for a second. See, if you observe even one more thing, there are two resources I wanted to create here. One is S3 bucket and another one is my EC2 instance. But if you observe, with EC2 instance creation, there is no error. There are no errors in EC2 resource block. So that is why it is already created. But if you look at the S3 bucket resource block, there is an error, right? So whether it is going to stop the resource creation of entire your file, no, it will create whatever the resources which are already uh, correct. There are no, if there are no problems, then what it will do, it will create those resources. If there is a problem, then it will stop that creation. That's it. Okay. So the resource is created, destroyed. Again, Terraform, apply. See, now if you observe, whatever the default dependency I was explaining you, yes. See, it has started creating both the resources in parallel. Okay, S3 bucket and EC2 instance, both at the same time. Now I don't know whether the name is valid or not. Again, name is not valid. Just go back and change this name. You can able to create this. Okay, the specified bucket is not valid. Okay, fine. That is it. Just go back and provide the same name here, and you can able to create this. Fine. The point here was the dependency I was talking about. The first one is default dependency. If there is no dependency between the resources, then how it will create? It will create those resources in parallel. This is the first thing. Now, the second one is, the second kind of dependency is something called as implicit dependency. Okay. Now, what is this implicit dependency? See, now, whenever, let me show you this first. Yes, okay. See, now, how created, I wanted to create one EC2 instance. My EC2 instance is already created. So the same EC2 instance, I wanted to allocate elastic IP to this. So what I'll do, I'll come here, create a elastic IP, right? Just create, allocate elastic IP, create it, allocate. Once it is allocated, associate this elastic IP to the your EC2 instance. Whatever the instance you select here, it will be associated. But as of now, I'm not doing it. But what I'm trying to explain here is release elastic IP. See, what I'm trying to explain you here is, if you want to create an elastic IP, right, then there is a dependency of EC2 machine. Agreed? Only if there is an EC2 instance, then only you can able to allocate this elastic IP to this EC2 instance, right? So whenever you create this elastic IP, can you able to create this directly? You cannot create directly because there is a dependency. First, you need to create EC2 machine, and then you can able to create elastic IP and allocate that elastic IP to your EC2 machine. This is what you should do, right? So whenever there is a dependency between the resources, if you see here, there is a dependency. If there is a dependency between the resources, then what Terraform will do is, it will create these kind of resources one after the other. First, it will create EC2 instance, then whatever the resource which is dependent, then it will create a next resource. Okay, so just to clarify the things, first is default dependency. In default dependency, there are no These are independent resources. There is no direct relationship between them. If there is no dependent resources, then what it will do, it will create those resources in parallel, right? If there is a dependency between the resources, like just like your Elastic IP and EC2 instance, then what it will do, will create those kind of resources one after the other. This is the point I was trying to say. Okay, now let us do this. See, here I'm creating a EC2 instance first. And once the EC2 instance is created, what I'm trying to create, I'm trying to create a Elastic IP. Okay, first, before getting into this, now my EC2 instance is created. Second, I am creating Elastic IP, right? But now tell me how this is one block, this is one resource block, resource one, and this is another resource. This is resource block two, right? Now, please tell me how this block, this Elastic IP block knows this is my EC2 instance, or how this Elastic IP block knows whenever I create Elastic IP, I should allocate this Elastic IP only to this EC2 instance, to this EC2 instance. How it will know? There might be multiple EC2 instance. This also can be allocated to this EC2, right? There might be another EC2 instance. This can be allocated to this. Then I wanted to create a relationship between them, right? See, Elastic IP. You create the Elastic IP first. Once the Elastic IP is created, to whom you should assign this? To the EC2 instance that I will mention. Whatever the EC2 instance ID, whatever the EC2 instance ID that I'll provide, okay, to that EC2 instance, you allocate this Elastic IP. This is what I should do, if you agree, right? So now this is my first resource block, and this is my second resource block, and this is the same file, right? Now, whenever this EC2 machine gets created, what happens? It will be having a ID to this. ID, public IP, private IP, everything is allocated. You already know this. Now what I need to do, I need to pick this ID and place it under this Elastic IP, right? For doing or this, please remember, if you wanted to copy or use, values, values between the resources. This is my first resource block. This is my second resource block. If you wanted to use the values between the resource blocks, then you need to do something called as interpolation. It's very easy. If you want to read the values between the different blocks, then what do you need to do? You need to do something called as interpolation. How to do this interpolation? Let me show you. It's very easy. See, now the syntax, let me first write down the syntax. Syntax is resource type dot resource name dot attribute name. What is this? Just note down or just observe. I'll show you. This is kind of a standard syntax. You should know this. Now, what I'll do, just come back. See, same thing here. Here is my EC2 instance, and here is my S3 bucket. Now, I wanted to read AWS EC2 instances ID. Where I wanted to read? I wanted to read under Elastic IP block, right? I'm creating a relationship between them, creating a dependency between them. How to create? Using something called as interpolation, right? Now, please observe how to do the interpolation. You already know resource type. What is the resource type? This is your resource type, AWS instance. See, the same thing is mentioned here. Instance is equal to AWS instance. Dot, what is the next thing? Resource name. This is your resource name. Same thing I have mentioned here. And attribute value. Whatever the ID of this EC2 instance which gets created, the same ID I'm copy pasting here. AWS resource name dot resource AWS resource type dot resource name dot attribute name. Resource type, resource name, and attribute name. This is not the only one. There are multiple things you can copy paste between the resources. Just AWS instance dot, just the same thing. Copy. I'll just show you. If you want a private IP, just replace with the private IP. If you just want a public IP, just replace with the public IP. Last thing. And when do you use this? If you want to use the values between the resource blocks internally, at that time, you'll be using this interpolation. For interpolation, what is the thing which is being used? Your resource type dot resource name. Okay, this name, now please tell me why I am using these names. These are for internal communication between the resources. If you wanted to copy paste the values, then I'm using this value, using these names. I hope you guys are clear now. Okay, let us execute this. Resource type, Control C, just come back, vi main.tf. Where is this? Okay. Now insert, paste. So save this. Now Terraform, plan. He want to add just Terraform apply. Now please observe here. First, it will create a EC2 instance. Oh, first, it will create a EC2 instance. Then it is creating your Elastic IP. What happened? Elastic IP LB network VPC attached to any internet gateway. What is the problem? I think I need to attach a VPC to this. Network VPC is not attached to internet gateway. Okay. No problem. That is not an issue. Let me Terraform destroy. Terraform. Just because I directly copy pasted, there are some things I need to change. No issues. I want you to show the concept here, not the exact things. Anyway, we'll create these things. Just a wait. Okay. See now, if I just Terraform apply, what is happening? Terraform apply auto approve. Terraform. Please observe here. See, first it will create a major resource. Then it will start creating a minor resource, dependent resources. So, see, AWS first it will create the EC2 instance. Once the EC2 instance is created, then it will start creating your Elastic IP. Then it will assign that to your EC2 instance. There is error, no worries for that. But if you see here, one after the other creation, that means it is a implicit dependency. Okay, so this is the concept I wanted to show you. If there is a dependency between the resources, then it will create those resources one after the other. Okay, how will you create or read the values between the resources? Using something called as interpolation. What is the syntax for interpolation? The syntax for interpolation is resource type dot resource name dot attribute name. Okay, if you want to read the values between the resource blocks, then that is the way. Okay, so the last kind of dependency is first as default dependency. Second dependency was implicit dependency. The third dependency is explicit dependency. There are three kinds of dependencies. First one is default. What is the default behavior? If there is no dependency between the resources, then it will start creating those resources in parallel. If there is a dependency between the resources, just like your EC2 and Elastic IP, then it will start creating those kind of resources one after the other. What is the explicit then? See, now we are creating a EC2 machine. At the same time, I am creating my S3 bucket. This is my S3 bucket and this is my EC2 machine. Okay. Now, what is the behavior it should follow? Obviously, it will go with the parallel, that is default dependency, it will follow. But now what I wanted to do, first I wanted to create a EC2 machine. Then only I wanted to create a S3 bucket. That means what I'm trying to do here, forcibly I wanted to create this EC2 instance and S3 bucket. Forcibly, I'm creating a dependency between these two things. Explicitly, I'm creating the dependency. Even though there is no dependency between EC2 machine and S3 bucket, explicitly, forcibly, I'm creating a dependency between these two things. Okay, how to create a dependency between these two things? There is something called as a keyword. Depends on. Depends on. This is the keyword using which we can able to create a dependency between, forcible dependency between the resources. Okay, so just come back here. Where is this? Let's do it. Okay. See, we just come down. Here I'm creating. What I'm creating? First, I'm creating a EC2 instance. Second, what I'm creating a S3 bucket. By default, first example, if you see, there is no dependency between these two resources, then it was creating in parallel. But now what I'm trying to do, I'm creating a explicit dependency. I'm forcibly creating dependency between these two resources. Okay, how can I do that? Using something called as a keyword known as depends on. Okay, depends on. Then again, what is the resource that you wanted to depend? My S3 bucket should be created only after creating EC2 instance. First, EC2 instance must be created, then only a S3 bucket must be created. So I'm reading EC2 instance value here. How I'm reading? Same thing. AWS instance dot AWS instance dot AWS instance name, and this ID is not required now. Okay, I just need a this one, right? Instance, whether it is created or not. Okay, just copy paste this. Where is this? Okay, vi main dot atf. Now also I'll get the error. Don't mind about that, about your S3 bucket name, unique name. That is not a thing here. Okay, just save this. Terraform apply. Invalid expression. No? What happened? Vi main dot f. Okay, okay. Here you should mention the same. No square bracket. This value. That is the problem. Terraform apply. Now please observe. First it will create EC2 instance, then it will start creating your, see? See? Oh my God. What happened? Just wait, sir. Let me delete this first. Terraform, restore. I would have given the correct names. Okay. Now Terraform apply. Just observe here. Auto approve. See, first it will start creating EC2 instance. Then we explicitly created a dependency. Then it will start creating your S3 bucket. See here, AWS instance first it is creating. Again, even though there is an error, then it will start creating your S3 bucket. If you observe here, still creating, wait. Okay, it is taking some, see, only when this EC2 instance creation is created, done, successfully it has created, then it has started creating your S3 bucket. Okay, that means we have explicitly created a dependency between your resources. Even though there is no default dependency between EC2 machine and S3 bucket, What I've done, I've created forcible dependency between them. How I have created a forcible dependency? Using something called as depends on keyword. Okay, this is the other thing that you need to remember. So today, whatever the things that we discussed, the first thing we discussed about, credentials. How to pass the credentials. There are different ways I showed you. Okay. In interviews, definitely they'll ask you, sir. Not only in interviews, whatever the things that I'm showing you here, right? Just follow the same thing. Even if you're following anyone in YouTube or somewhere, that is fine for me. I don't have any issues. But first complete whatever in whatever the things that I'll say here. Then you go to any other resource. I don't have any problem. Okay. First, we discuss how to pass the credentials. Second, we discuss there are dependencies. Okay. There are three kinds of dependency. First one is default dependency. Second one is implicit dependency. Third one is explicit dependency. What is default dependency? If there is no dependency between the resources, let's say EC2 machine and S3 bucket, there is no direct relationship between them, then how Terraform will treat these resources? They are independent resources. So it will start creating them in parallel. At the same time, it will start creating. Second is implicit dependency. If there is a dependency between different resources, your EC2 machine and your Elastic IP, there is a direct relationship between them. So if there is a direct relationship or dependency between them, then how it will create those resources one after the other. Last one is explicit dependency. What is this explicit dependency? See, we have a EC2 machine and we have a S3 bucket. There is no direct relationship between them. But now what I wanted to do, I wanted to forcibly create a dependency between these two things. Okay. So for that reason, what I'm using something called as depends on. This is the keyword I'm using. So I need to create S3 bucket only after creation of my EC2 instance. This is what the thing. And in implicit dependency, we discuss a concept known as interpolation. Right? What is this interpolation? If you want to read the values between different resource blocks, this is resource block 1 and this is resource block 2. If you wanted to read the values between different resource blocks, then we are using something called as interpolation. What is the syntax for interpolation? Resource type dot resource name dot your attribute values or attribute name. This is how you can read the values from one resource block to another resource block. Clear, guys? Any doubts here? Sir, are you guys there?
No doubts.
Okay.
Sachin, so in yesterday's class, you have used as Terraform apply, and today in some of the places you have used it as Terraform apply auto approve.
Yeah. See, there is no difference. See, now I'll show you. Okay, let me delete this. See here. Now, if I just Terraform, let me clear this. Terraform, I'll just use the keyword apply. Now, if you see, it will ask you for the confirmation. You need to manually type it as a yes here. Just wait. See, it is asking you for the popping up for some S here. You need to manually type it. But what I'll do, just come out. Now, again, I'll apply the Terraform apply. But I'll not provide that value. auto approve. Automatically, you are providing that S. You got this point, what I'm trying to say. Huh?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Sachin, clear.
Now it will
Thank
not ask you for that pop.
you. Yeah, got it. Thank
See?
you.
Yeah. Okay. So, sir, please go through these things. These are very important. Okay. And from maybe, what is the date tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow we'll start with something called as variables, how to pass the values, all those things. Okay. Only if you have all completed all these 3 classes, you can able to understand the upcoming classes, sir. If you're not done, I can't help anything. Whatever the things I wanted to give you, I already gave you. You just need to practice these things. Okay. Just complete all the 3 classes. That is the request from my end. If you're not completing, you'll not understand the next classes. And practice. Fine. So that's it from my end. Yeah. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.